I think the biggest reason why she picked Jimmy is because we picked the love we think we deserve. She believes she deserved struggle love. It doesn't feel like it is love unless there's a struggle to it. She fought for that man and she won that man. So in her mind that means he has to love her, right? It's currently 11 p.m. at night. I have missing mom here and the spackle job is just spackling. Let it be. Ignore that. But I really wanted to do this video and get it out there before the next few episodes of Love is Blind comes out. So I've been saying on this channel I want to explore and do new things. One thing I love is I love reality shows, especially some of the Netflix. They're definitely poison to your brain, but I love just, you know, the analyzing people's behaviors and all of that. And one thing we have to keep in mind is that these are all characters. Shows manipulate footage to make people appear a certain way. So we actually don't 100% know the situation or the people, or there's missing context, and we have to keep that in mind. So it's so important when you're watching these shows to remember, like, a lot of it is manipulated, it's edited, no reason to attack other people. Like, you watch these people for entertainment and move on with your day. I see it as like characters in a show, and that's how I'm going to analyze it. And not only that, but you can analyze some of these behaviors, the way that they edit, and see like, oh, okay, like, you know, this is where people go wrong, or like maybe some people relate to the characters, and you can kind of see how these behaviors affect you. And by us analyzing it, maybe going through it, you can kind of figure out yourself and why you do some of the things that you do. So keep in mind, when I'm going through these characters, I feel this way right now with the footage that's out here right now, but it can easily change. Let me know if you guys enjoy this video, and I will do the rest of the series. If not, I'll just do this and just leave it as it is. But leave a comment below to let me know, or thumbs it up, and just let me know that you want me to continue to do this. So I'm not going to be summarizing the episodes. I just wanted to go through each character and kind of analyze them, and I thought I'd analyze a couple situations and go through them with you guys. So the first one I want to get out of the way is Matthew. Everyone, you know, we can tell he's an unhealthy character. Everyone sees that. I'm not entirely sure why they casted him to begin with. The editing job definitely doesn't do him any favors, but he just looks like he's on his own, or like he makes dating the other women really difficult. So the two women that were interested in him, which were Amber and AD, red flags, like things that they need to realize is like everyone else around them, or at least what appeared like the other women, they were like, yeah, Matthew just gives bad vibes. That's a red flag. If people around you don't like him, then listen up. Not everyone is deserving of a chance. Now, people are wondering why AD gave him a chance, and it's most likely because of how compassionate she is, and she's very understanding, and she most likely has felt misunderstood in her life, so she gives people chances. It also probably felt good to her to be the one that cracked open the shell, like she had explained. Like, it's an ego boost to be like, oh, I'm the one who got him to soften up, and you know, she had, what did she call herself, Miss Fix-a-Ho, like, you know, that's how she feels validated and good, is that people pleasing, that codependency, that taking care of others, and, you know, making them a better person than what they were when they first came to her. So what most likely happened is Matt was probably a hard ass to see like who he could do that to and who he could get away with it with, and then that way he can treat them badly in the future. So if you see a hard ass and like you crack open the shell, that's not good. He's gonna continue to be a hard ass in the future. Now I'm gonna talk about AD in a little bit, but first let's go through Jessica. So Jessica has a really sad story where she had addict parents, and then she wound up in the foster care system, but thankfully, you know, she found her forever parents when she was like 16, 17, she had mentioned. And thankfully they helped her, so she was able to have her daughter. So all of this going on, we can only assume she most likely has an insecure attachment. I'm going to assume, and there's not enough information, and by the way, not a psychologist, can't diagnose anyone, I'm just going based on the character. Like I mentioned, it seems like she may possibly have a fearful avoidant attachment based on the push and pull she does with Jimmy. Generally, when you have an anxious attachment or a fearful avoidant attachment, you will put the person you deem as your person on a pedestal, and eventually you will try to mold them into more of what you want so they can attend to and meet all of your needs. That's why she'd constantly nitpick or try to direct him or call out things and try to get him to be more of what she wants. Like, you know, for instance, he had blown his nose. He's like, oh, we gotta talk about that. And I think there's also a moment when she was with the girls and she was like, oh, I have to talk to him about this and not doing this behavior. She claims that she's direct, but it's more so just being controlling, trying to control the situation. So she feels like all of her needs are attended to and met. So anyway, it was pretty apparent that very early on she was going to pick Jeramey to be her person, because she would say little things. One of the biggest things she had said in like the first or second episode was, I feel good about you. You know, that was an indicator she most likely was gonna, you know, pick him and kind of focus solely on him. That's why later on she had spiraled when he didn't pick her, and she put all the blame on him and how he wasted her time and wasted this experience. And I've seen a couple of things online of people being like, you know, oh, she did that, she wanted to be on the show. No, like, she genuinely was desperate and really wanted to get married, and she had already had fantasized, put all her hopes and dreams onto Jeramey and thought like he was the one, and she was finally gonna get what she had wanted. And it's an inner child wound there, where it's like, when you constantly have things ripped away from you, your home, your family, your sense of belonging, like when there's potential for you to have a sense of belonging again or a loving relationship, you will really fantasize and hone in on it and like want it so badly and try to make it happen. That's why being a little controlling. And then when it doesn't happen, like, it's just triggered and complete meltdown. So here's the thing, I am not team Jeramey at all, but there has to be some accountability here. She did decide to go on a show, and she decided to take a risk by putting herself out there and be vulnerable and date multiple people at a time. She took a risk, especially on someone that she knew was pursuing 2 people. He didn't explicitly say, I'm choosing you and I love you. He entertained her with the idea, and she kind of took that and ran with it of like, oh, you know, in her mind, she didn't say this out loud. I mean, little things she would say, but she thought that she was gonna get picked. And so she took him entertaining the idea as like, this is official, you know, there's a high chance that she's gonna get picked. And also she has pretty privilege. Like, I think that she was 100% expecting to get picked because she's so used to like getting attention, especially physically. So when you have pretty privilege like that, it's like really hard when you get rejected. So originally, like when they had met up, she was like saying how she wanted him to be honest. And again, remember, in her mind, she thought he was gonna pick her. So she was like, okay, like, oh yeah, you 100% be honest, because she was fantasizing and delusional and thinking that he was going to tell her, hey, I'm picking you. Like, no, she wasn't expecting the answer. So she was saying like, I want you to be 100% honest. If it's not me, it's okay. She really wasn't okay with it. I'm okay with it. But then when he wasn't, you know, giving her the answer that she had wanted, her ego had gotten her. So in that moment, she got triggered because she felt abandoned. Her hopes and dreams were destroyed. Somebody took her dream away from her. And again, that's inner child wound. She constantly had things taken from her, so it triggered that all over again. So now she's feeling like, I have to start all over again. My dreams are destroyed. She had fantasized this whole future together, and probably when she was meeting up with him and talking to him in the pods, she most likely felt some type of relief of like, oh, I found my person. Like, I don't have to go out there again and try to pursue other people. Like, this is it for me. I'm finally getting what I want. She positively projected the person she wanted onto him, and that's why she felt like he was her person. He was perfect. So if you're someone that has an anxious attachment, you may also relate to Jessica, where you have thought you found your person, and maybe like they were entertaining an idea with being with you, but maybe not 100%, and then you felt distraught or destroyed when they said no. And then she had the iconic, you're gonna need an EpiPen when you see me. I'm really excited to see what happens when he does see her, because the preview for next week, it's definitely very manipulated, and so I'm wondering what really happens. Now let's talk about Jeramey. Jeramey is very much about Jeramey. He likes to put out a persona that he's a loving guy, a family guy, he's understanding, he just wants an easy life, but really Jeramey needs a girl to fawn over him. Like the pure example is when they were on the beach on the last episode and he asked the girls how they narrowed down the guys and if it was hard or easy for them, and then his response to all the girls was that it sucks that he didn't make it on their list. Interesting response when you have a fiance, but I digress. He specifically needs a girl that's more insecure in herself to make him feel secure in himself, because a girl that's insecure will be like, you know, love me, want me, like I need you, and he needs that to feel good. That's why he's very into Chelsea, because Chelsea is someone that constantly needs validation and wants to talk about, you know, liking her and her liking him. Jeramey likes to be in control. He knows how to manipulate situations so he can come out as the good guy and other people are like the issue, and he can pass by with limited damage. You can see how he does this in his disagreements, like his disagreement with Chelsea at the end of the episode, and also with his disagreement with Jessica, like, oh, you know, these girls are being too much and I'm just an innocent guy over here. You know, he even had mentioned in the last episode, like, she's being unfair to him when she brought up something that made her uncomfortable. And by her, I mean Chelsea. Something Chelsea had brought up that made her uncomfortable. Now let's talk about Chelsea. Poor Chelsea is getting a lot of heat because of the Megan Fox comments. I'm gonna be real. There are some scenes where, like, you can see some of the features. She looks like Megan Fox. Like, she's beautiful in her own way. Everyone needs to, you know, chill. So let's talk Chelsea. So Chelsea seems very childish based on her responses to things. She would literally throw herself across the room anytime one of the guys said something nice to her, and like her facial expressions were very apparent on her face about how much that meant to her and how surprised and shocked she was, or like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening to me, or somebody likes me. Like, she was astonished somebody would be into her, which is so interesting because she literally was married before. I know she had mentioned she got cheated on a lot, but allegedly she also had cheated, which, I mean, that makes sense, but I'm not gonna go into that because I don't have proof. I'm not there. She didn't admit it herself, so I'm gonna stay my butt out of that business. So something about Chelsea is she projects a lot of her insecurities onto others, like Jeramey, and she does this by positively projecting what she wants onto them. But she's revealing her true insecurities and fears. Like, for instance, when Jeramey and Chelsea were on the beach, she was talking about how, you know, everyone was looking at her man and he was so attractive, but really she was just revealing that she feels very insecure and she wants to have a man that's very into her like that. And she needs to have a man that everybody wants in order for her to feel good. Because trust me, no offense, but Jeramey is not a man that everybody is looking at. He definitely is giving me 45-year-old dad from Idaho. Chelsea overcompensates Jeramey not making her feel validated or wanted by overly complimenting Jeramey. But I don't believe she's really that attracted to him, and vice versa, especially because she had mentioned she doesn't usually go for Jeramey's. So I'm going to talk more about Chelsea in the two situations she was in, the love square and also the situation with AD. But first I'm going to go through the rest of the characters. So let's talk AD. I really love AD. She's so compassionate and supportive, but real. I love that she breaks stigmas in the Black community about going to therapy, because often there's a stigma that only crazy people go to therapy, or there's something that has to be severely wrong with you for you to go to therapy. So good on her, and I hope that encourages more young people in the Black community to want to go seek therapy if they need it. So AD is aware she has a complex where she feels like she needs to fix other men, and you know, she's done some trauma work, but it still seems she's stuck there, as she's still picked two men that need some work. Very early on, watch how a man handles disagreements or fights or things he doesn't like, because that's how he's going to treat you in your relationships. And Clay showed that very early on. Clay showed in the pods how he was going to treat her when there was issues, and it didn't look very good. The way both Matthew and Clay was, that's a huge deal breaker. It should be deal breaker to most people. But here's the thing, after we turn 30 and we are in our 30s and we go on a show like Love is Blind and we expect to be married, there comes a desperation point where you will most likely be more accepting of things. AD is also a big people pleaser, and she will sacrifice her own comfort and things that make her uncomfortable to make someone else more comfortable. Like the Jimmy situation on the beach in episode 6. It seems like it's easier for her to stick up for others than it is for her to stick up for herself. Like, she stuck up for Clay, feeling uncomfortable about the whole bean dip situation, when in reality she was the one who was being harassed or was going to be harassed. It really should have been about AD's feelings, because she was the one who was being joked about, but it turned into focusing on everyone else. I'll talk more about the bean dip situation with the other characters in a little bit. Let's talk about Clay. He's what I'd call a delusional, self-aware person. He is aware and he says the things that are wrong about him and the things that he does wrong, and he can talk a good game. He says what the issues are about himself, but he doesn't really do anything about them. Just talks but no real action. He can talk a good game and sell himself up, which I just realized he is a sales tech of some sort, so that makes sense. So in the beginning he mentions he has a big ego, and I'm not really sure if he 100% understands what that means, because he talks about it in a way where he sees, in my opinion, it seems like he thinks it's positive and negative at the same time. But having a big ego is not a good thing. Having a healthy ego is a good thing, because you should have some sort of self-esteem and feel good about yourself, and you need to have a positive or healthy ego. But having a big ego means that your ego is trying to protect you from insecurities and fears and deep traumas. And you see that very much so when he has a situation with AD and she's bringing up Matthew, and like a supportive person, like, because this is all a lot that everyone's going through, and they're having to date other people, and feelings are very involved, and there's a lot of vulnerability. Like, someone that's dating you should be able to be there for you, and I mean, because this is such a complex situation, and be able to, like, you know, hear you out and see where you're coming from, because then they can kind of understand where your head is at and how you see the situation, and you guys can talk through things, and it can bring you closer. But instead he used it in a moment to be insecure and like, what does this have to do with me? I would have immediately been turned off and really felt dismissed and upset if someone did that to me. AD, unfortunately, she immediately just shut down, and she felt bad about it, which she shouldn't have, because she was just explaining the situation. She just went through a lot, and she needed someone there, and that could have been a moment Clay could have been there for her, but instead he let his ego take over, which is understandable, because it is very hard when you're dating other people and the person you like is talking about someone else. Completely, I get it. At the same time, sometimes we gotta put our ego to the side and be there for someone that's in distress. Obviously it's circumstantial, but this seems like it would have been one of those good times to show how he could be husband material, because not everything your spouse brings up to you is comfortable and feels good. You gotta be there. And I mean, and then another thing is the situation where he was talking about expecting AD to get her body right after pregnancy, which, Lord, please, like, there's a lot of things you can't control, like hormones, and like people's bodies hold on to weight while they're breastfeeding. I understand that. Like, your body doesn't always bounce back. Your body's actually never the same. So that's just kind of gross in itself. Like, as women, we're sacrificing our body to have a baby. So, you know, that's unfair to expect us to be the same how we were before. Like, there's got to be a little appreciation there. But that was very, like, that's a big red flag if a man expects it of you. Like, it's okay to want to be healthy together, but don't expect, like, you know, after pregnancy for your body to be the same. Another thing is he keeps talking about being a little baby. which that's showing some mommy issues right there. And that could either mean that he wasn't nurtured enough as a child, and so he looks for a partner that will be very nurturing and coddle him, or he was overly coddled as a child and he was not held accountable enough and treated like an adult. He was maybe infantilized. So that's his way of being like, poor me, take care of me, I'm innocent, I'm just a little baby, I don't know any better. It's his way of not owning up to his shit and having someone else having to cater to him, which AD is a perfect caretaker. Clay gets AD because he sells her the story of what she wants to hear and what she wants to be true. Now Laura. So her and Jeramey, I think his name is Jeramey, I forget their names. I think it's Jeramey. He has a very interesting spelling of Jeramey. But so her and Jeramey connected on their sense of humor. But she's very critical of him. And it seems like she struggles with her own deep shames. That's why she gets embarrassed very often, or will shame him or criticize him often. So she projects that shame onto him. And that's why you'll see her criticizing, like for instance, in the pool scene when he is like being all playful, and I'll get into Jeramey, but he's being all playful and she's like, oh my god, like so annoying, or like she's criticizing the way he dresses or his glasses or whatever it is. She needs him to look a certain way for her to feel better about herself, because she feels he represents her in some sort of way. But this criticism that she shows, like in the pool scene, that can turn into contempt and resentment. That very much so is two of the four horsemen. So if that continues on, I cannot see how that relationship will continue on. I can't see them making it to the altar. But when it comes to the bean dip situation, that was not handled good at all. And I'm someone who I'm all about, don't always judge someone based on the mistakes they make, judge them based on how they make up for the mistakes, and Laura didn't do so good. So here's the thing, when you're a jokester, you will take risks and you will mess up and you will take things too far. When you do that, you're supposed to own it and apologize. Hey, I took things too far, I'm sorry, I misread the situation, whatever it is, you need to make amends for it when you cross the line. And definitely with the bean dip situation, that line was crossed, way crossed. Instead of owning it, she let her ego take over. And her ego took over to take her away from feeling the shame. And then she blamed Jeramey. And she belittled how Clay and AD felt, which they were very much so justified in how they felt. But you could tell she definitely did that and told Jeramey, because Jeramey was very, the way he talked about it, it seemed very chill. And like not like he made it up, and she was like over the top, like, no, I didn't say that. Like she was lying and trying to gaslight everybody. If everyone took it well, she most likely would have owned that joke, but like, yeah, I told him to do that. But because it didn't go over well, she immediately was like, everyone's being childish, you know, this is everybody else's fault. That whole situation was very insensitive to AD, and she deserved an apology. I don't think she was trying to be malicious, or there was any malicious intent, but if you have to act like everyone around you is the problem when you mess up, you have some work to do. Like if multiple people are having an issue with you, you gotta look at yourself and be like, okay, what am I doing? It's not that everyone else is childish and they're the problem. Like you gotta look at yourself, and this is where Laura went wrong. If you gotta deflect blame, you can't do that your whole life, otherwise you're gonna lose a lot of people, or your circle's gonna get very small. So that, I feel very terrible for AD. That was just not a good situation altogether. Now let's talk Jeramey. Jeramey likes to have fun. He's very kiddish. It doesn't seem like he really likes to deal with the seriousness of life. It seems like he runs away from serious things or things that make him uncomfortable. He makes a joke out of everything, and if he can't make a joke, then he avoids it. You can see what Laura did all of that. She tried to avoid it. He wanted to go home. He wanted to run away from it. And most likely in his childhood, like that's how his family dealt with situations. Or when he felt shame, he would try to avoid it and run away. Or anytime there was something uncomfortable, an uncomfortable situation in his household, he would avoid it, he would run, he would go to his room, he would leave the house. And he just deals with reality by making a big joke out of it, but he probably has some inner demons in there that he does not face and he does not want to talk about because it's too deep and it's too much and it's too uncomfortable. He just runs from anything uncomfortable. But there's more to learn about Jeramey. I don't feel like there was enough of Jeramey in the mix. Now, Kenneth and Britany, they don't get enough screen time, but so far I feel like they are an example couple. They're a great example of what a healthy relationship can look like Kenneth wanting to unpack their day at the end of the day. And I think, you know, Britany expressing her appreciation, them validating each other, them talking about growing and building together. Both appear secure in themselves and that they have the same goal in mind, that they want to lean on each other and build together and grow together. The thing that I'm curious about is when they do go back to the real world, how will they handle being in an interracial relationship? Because Kenneth specifically had mentioned he's never been with a white girl before, and you know, how is his family and friends going to take it? And let's see the pressure, especially with the preview that's coming up about it saying like with what Britany had said to him, or what they make it seem like she had said to him. So we'll see. Also, maybe they were in that honeymoon phase and then reality hit, and like just they're in the real world and it's just hard for them. Now, Amy and Johnny, another what appears to be so far on a healthy route. You don't see a lot of them, but they have a healthy beginning and I love them so far. You know, Amy has her really sad story and I'm rooting for a happy ending with the two of them because he seems like he really appreciates and he loves her, and vice versa. Now, I saw some questions on the internet that I thought I would answer, and one has to do with the love square. Not like they're questions. I love how I said that. They're not questions to me directly, but I mean, I saw these questions and I was like, oh, like I have my own opinion that I'd like to input. So one has to do with the love square between Jimmy, Chelsea, Trevor, and Jessica. A big question was, why do Jessica and Chelsea like Jimmy? Jimmy is a safe choice. Jimmy is not a man of many words. He's pretty easygoing and vanilla. He's passive and easy to project the man that they had hoped for, fantasized, you know, dreamed of onto him. The two women that happen to pick him struggle with what appears to be some insecurities and desperate to be loved. He could feed them one or two liners and they would be giddy and filled with joy. Not only that, but him being quieter, the women did a lot of the talking. They clearly liked being heard and they felt like they felt heard because he didn't say much. Now, why did Chelsea pick Jimmy over Trevor? Part of it, you know, I've seen people say it's because she felt competitive and she won over a pretty girl. That could possibly be part of it. Part of it could be because he said I love you to the day before and it was more, and she felt like maybe it was something more confirmed. That may be part of it. I can't recall if Trevor said I love you, though. He might have, but he was very firm on showing that he wanted her and he was there for her. I think the biggest reason why she picked Jimmy is because we picked the love we think we deserve. She deep down didn't believe she deserved to be with a guy that picked her and only wanted her. She believed she deserved struggle love. It doesn't feel like there's love, or it doesn't feel like it is love unless there's a struggle to it. She fought for that man and she won that man. So in her mind, that means he has to love her, right? It's really ego-based. With ego, it's there to protect us. It's a shield that covers our eyes from reality and things that are too painful to face. Our deep insecurities, our fears. So when we come from a place of ego, it makes us think that we won because it misses obvious signs that our intuition is trying to tell us. Because it causes us to miss obvious signs and it causes us to not listen to our intuition. If she came from a place of self-love and security, she would be able to accept Trevor's love and think she's deserving of Trevor's love. She would be able to receive Trevor's love and think she deserved Trevor's love, instead of ignoring the blandness of Jimmy and taking the little that he was giving her. And the last thing I want to talk about is the AD, Jimmy, and Chelsea situation. And this is a situation where Jimmy points out that AD is stacked and she's attractive. Previously, a few episodes earlier, 4 or 5, I can't remember, Chelsea says that she's not worried about Jimmy cheating on Chelsea. Chelsea often says things that she wants to be true but doesn't really believe them, and they aren't really true. Like how she said everyone was wanting her man. In reality, she was saying that because she was feeling like she wasn't getting validated, so she was trying to overcompensate, and she wanted people to really be looking at her man. And then her insecurity showed up when Jimmy commented on AD and her body. She reacted by going to a phone response and by people pleasing and acting like she was the cool girl that was okay with her man saying things about another girl. Probably from fear of if she got mad, he would leave or she would look bad, or not wanting to look bad by confronting him. It really backfired because instead of setting boundaries, she called it out and made it public information. This most likely was because she didn't know how to handle it, so she thought by playing it cool and calling it out, it would normalize it, but instead she just wound up getting more hurt. Then back at their room, instead of addressing and saying her feelings were hurt, she kept projecting and saying, like, you know, asking Jimmy if something was wrong or if he was mad at her. And not only is this projection, but there's also, it's a less confrontational way to bring up, hey, there's a problem I want to address, but I'm not really comfortable sharing it, so I'm gonna see you as being mad and try to come from that angle of like, hey, are you upset? And this is where the whole situation was, where Jimmy was not acknowledging what he was doing. He said, I'm sorry that you feel that way, and she originally was starting to accept it, but then I think she realized that he was not taking accountability and he was just kind of glossing over it and dismissing it, and she just, I think she was triggered in that moment and she really wanted to be acknowledged, and he wasn't giving that to her, so she immediately felt abandoned and hurt and insecure and worthless. So that's all my notes right now for the first 6 episodes and the people and some of the situations. I may have forgotten some things, but what do you guys think? Leave it all in the comments below, and please let me know if you guys want me to continue this and analyze more moving forward the other situations. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye guys. So I'm going to talk more about Chelsea. Oh no, my camera's dying. I am filming while a baby is on my lap.